Hey everyone, so in this video we are going to look at how to limit the range in which an object can rotate when applying angular velocity. Now, there is a previous video to this one, however, if you don't want to watch it, that's fine because I could review what we did in about 2 minutes. So, to make this work, each object has a rigid body. So, a rigid body allows for the application of physics, and we shut off gravity. Second thing we did is we added a script. So let's go ahead and take a look at that script. So this is all that's going on from a code point of view. This is all default coding up to that point. We're simply looking to see if the letter A is being pressed. If so, then apply angular velocity to the z-axis. This is x, this is y, this is z, in a negative direction. Then we say, well, if that's not happening, then check to see if D is being pressed. If D is being pressed, then again, add angular velocity on the z-axis, but in a positive direction. Else, which means neither of those are being pressed, bring the thing to a halt. We don't want it to keep rotating. We don't want it to slowly slow down. We just want it to stop immediately. So, what we need to do is we need to set an angle range. Now, I know what that number is, but I want to take a minute to show you how I did it, because when you're trying to figure this out yourself, you're going to have to do some sampling and some testing. So here's what I did. So within the if statement where I'm pressing A, you could do it for both, but you really only need one. So debug.log, what we want is to know, so transform.ULAngle, so we're looking at the angle of the object the script is attached to, and specifically we said we want the z-axis, because that's the one that we said we're rotating on. Makes sense? That's the one with the changing, so that's the one we know the limits. We need to know the limits for. So if we run this, and I press A, down here, you see the current Euler angle. Now, it's saying that it's 249 and change, which means it was probably right around 250, okay? If we keep pressing A, as you can see, the blinds continue to open, and this number gets lower. So now it's just really kind of arbitrarily choosing what number is the number that you want. Now, in the game that you're working on, you may have an absolute limit, but in this case, let's do, say, 225. Now, that's almost everything we need to finish this up. So what we do is in the input statement, no longer we just look to see the key press. We say, okay, if the key is being pressed and something else. Yes, it needs to be a double ampersand. So now what we need to do is we need to take this that we were checking and say that there's an upper limit to it. So we said that we did not want z to be lower than 225. Actually, greater, sorry. We don't want it to be lower, therefore it must stay greater. So if z is greater than this number, then this should happen. Now let's just put in the extra, not really extra, the required parentheses, and I'll explain that. So with an if statement, absolutely everything has to be surrounded by parentheses. And it doesn't like this. I think I have one too many parentheses in the front. There we go. So another thing, if you have a parenthesis selected, it'll show you the corresponding parenthesis. This little benefit of Microsoft Visual Studio. So the entire thing has to be surrounded by parentheses, okay? And then each thing that you're checking, each variable, each input, each whatever, it needs to be surrounded by parentheses. And input is unique because within it, it has something that's within parentheses. Again, this is surrounded by parentheses, and then that's the parenthesis for the whole object. So it's a little bit messy the first time you look at it, but that's the logic of what's going on. Okay, so we said we don't want this to go above, below 225, so it needs to be above 225. Let's just run that. And it stopped. I'm holding the button, I'm hitting the button, nothing happened. It stopped it there. We said it was somewhere around 250 to begin with. So what we'll do here is something very similar. We'll add 1 just to be safe. So in this case, we're checking to make sure that it's less than an amount. And we'll say 251. And we need the parenthesis in the front. So again, the whole thing is surrounded by parentheses. Each element is surrounded by parentheses. And within input, that object or that input that's looking for is surrounded by parentheses. Okay. That should do it. So rotate A, stopped. Rotate D, stopped. That's it. And let's start with D, and it should like stop right away. Yeah, see, it moved just a tiny bit, so probably really was at 250. And if you decide you want a larger range, it's just a matter of switching those numbers. Like I said, the only confusing thing really is if you're trying to keep it within a certain range. So you have to be mindful as to whether you're checking if it's above that number or below that number. Okay. So actually, that's it. I think that answers the question. And if you have anything else you'd like to see, just let me know.